Yeah, and it's awesome, man. It's fun to talk about different things too. And tonight we're gonna, we'll talk a little pitching. That's obviously always on the docket when you're a pitching guy. There's got to be some pitching conversation. But one of the things that I think gets lost in a lot of this is how important it is as a leader, how important it is as a human to possess certain qualities. And we often look at the metrics, the measurables as separators, and yet we forget the other separators that are the intangibles that really bring a team together and elevate a team. So we're going to talk about leadership qualities, man. I think it's just, I preach on this a lot. I think just in general, maybe one of my life's missions, one of the many, is to help kids understand that they too can lead, however they lead. Not everybody's an alpha vocal, but you can lead in different ways, and you can lead by example. And some of my, I can go into different things, but I often think back to my high school days where I was a captain. I was a captain with someone else. He's one of my best friends to this day. He didn't like to talk. He didn't like to talk in front of the group. He didn't like to do any of that. I did all of that, but he was a great leader in his way, right? And it worked. And so I think there's some misperceptions on that. But before we get into that, though, man, as you can see, I can get going on this subject a little bit. But before we get going into that, man, let's talk about, your background. I know your background. I'd love you to share a little bit more about, your playing days, your career, how you ended up at Oregon, man. Just take us through all of it.
Yeah, born and raised in Southern California. Was lucky enough, through at the time that recruiting process, goodness, now close to 20 years ago, where I was presented with an opportunity to go play for Coach Jason Gill, who's a mentor of mine at Loyola Marymount. And it was just the right fit, right? I was fortunate that baseball put me in a position to have options. Not many, I wasn't that good, but there was a couple options. But nonetheless, I remember going on maybe a couple visits here and there to schools and campuses, and truthfully, some really good baseball schools, and it just didn't feel right. And being able to then eventually get to campus and just kind of the lay of the land, and even just for family and kind of my own upbringing. And then, of course, the most important piece, the people that you surround yourself around, or at the time, fortunate to choose, it just made so much sense, right? And so played at Loyola Marymount, transitioned away for a year and a half. I was involved with baseball, but kind of got away from baseball. I had, funny enough, I had political aspirations, and I was working in, so kind of a fun field.
I feel like quickly you could get my vote, Matt.
Oh, I appreciate that. Fool them with the best of them, But nonetheless, I was still missing the game, right? And so it kind of got to the fork in the road of, I had an awesome job, and I loved what I was doing, and that's a whole other competitive, I suppose, industry. And but I got to this fork in the road where Gilly then reached back out and offered, at the time, a volunteer position. And at first, I remember, I'll never forget this. I give so much credit to my dad, and I remember calling him and actually thinking that he would be the one that's, kind of reminding me of how fortunate I was currently in the position that I had in the political world at such a young age, and kind of thought he was going to go down that path of like, well, volunteer position, there's risk there, and you're starting to make, somewhat of a career for yourself, even financially speaking, right, at the time. And but the message was completely opposite. And to this day, I think that was a special note for truthfully for me, right? And my dad just saying, hey, his thought was, I'm going to paraphrase it, but his thought was, hey, whether you start a professional career at 23, 24, or if you started at 30, By the time you're probably 50 years old, you're going to be in a position that is probably very comparable based off of you, the individual, right? And whatever you do, and so he was actually more on the promoting side of do it, like risk it, like go for it. And I remember getting out that phone, and that was kind of the final blessing, just because of how much I admire and look up to my father. And called Gilly back and packed up the U-Haul and literally drove down, a few days then later. And I think school started, I get there on a Friday and school started that Monday. And long story short, was at Loyola Marymount, back at Loyola Marymount in a coaching role there for 4 years. Was lucky enough to then be presented to go work with, Coach Hill, work for Coach Hill, and got to meet, now one of my best friends and will always forever will be in Coach Ungrich, who we came into that thing together at the University of San Diego. 7 years of unbelievable memories. Goodness, our kids born both in San Diego. So, married at the time, early on when we were there. And so that was really kind of where our roots were really, flourished. And then, over the last handful of years, luckily because of the boys that you're fortunate enough to coach, we're presented with different opportunities, and at the time just didn't kind of feel right, and want to do first and foremost what was best for the family. But when Coach Wazakowski reached out, truthfully, it was the first time where my wife was like, you're an idiot, right? You're an idiot if you don't take this opportunity. So again, getting her blessing, getting the boss's blessing, and since then it's been amazing. Kind of unique too, just because Coach comes from the same family tree that I grew up in with Coach Gill, right? From call it the Yagi Garrido to Coach Horton family tree. So lingo wise, we're speaking the same language, even though it is in a first year. I had to kind of remind myself on certain language there, after 7 years of being away from it. But just so fortunate to be up here, and the community has been amazing. First time in a college town living with the family, so that's definitely different. But again, in the truest sense of community, that's what Eugene is, and that's what this university is. And enough of me rambling, but it's been very special, now here for the first 8-9 months.
No, I love it, man. I mean, it's I appreciate you sharing all that. I mean, there's so many questions I have off of that, man, that are not topic related at all. I mean, I'm so curious on the political aspirations, man. What were your goals, man? What did you want to do in that?
Oh goodness, I think that I really, at the end of the day, even kind of relating it to goodness, I can think and reflect of you're in first grade and there's career day. And I always took this pride, funny enough, in the education system. I wanted to be an educator, and in first grade, you're thinking that you're just going to be your first grade teacher, right? And that's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And so with the political side of it, it was really just trying to do things right and help other people. And, that's kind of my fix in terms of where I find enjoyment. And then you get a little bit older and you realize, wait a second, coaching baseball is also educational, right? You're a PE teacher. So it all in an odd way kind of worked itself out where in terms of long-term aspirations in the political scene, goodness, I couldn't tell you. Again, I was 23 and 24, and I was young, and I was working, 7 a.m. and fortunate enough that my boss at the time allowed me to get in early to leave early so I can then also coach the high school that I attended in the afternoon just to get my baseball fix. But goodness, whether from the late night fundraisers or donor events in that time, it probably helped transform me in terms of recruiting now, in a unique way. So it all blends together, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. It's super interesting, man. I think it's there's we won't get into that, but there's a reason that it's hard for great people to stay in it, right?
For sure. Sure.
It's a tough realm. Usually the great people you go a different direction, but it's super interesting, man. So Eugene has been awesome for you guys. Obviously, I know you have 2 kids. You guys have enjoyed it there, it sounds like. Let's move the conversation on leadership qualities, man. And this is just a general conversation. We could talk for hours on this specific topic, but let's just kind of start with this, man. Like if you're just like breaking down with all of the guys that you've coached now, whether it doesn't have to just be arms, like guys that you've been around, you've played, just in general, what does a great leader look like to you?
I think you nailed it, truthfully, Justin, of even just you kind of bringing up that. I think first and foremost, you got to understand who you are, right? You got to understand what you bring to the table in terms of personality and charisma. Authenticity is a word that I really like to use in conversation with even our current players. But I never want to be in a position where I'm asking for a player or someone to get outside of their comfort zone, right? And I say this too to our guys, like you got to love me through my quirkiness as well. And but I don't want to change who I am, right? I don't want to change who or how I'm coaching in an October scrimmage in comparison to when we're playing the game, last week or, over these first handful of weeks or previous seasons. I want them to know what they're going to get out of me, right? And so with that message in relationship to kind of what you're looking for, it's, well, are you able to find maybe the mature player that understands just what they bring, right? Is it a little bit more of, hey, I'm the fourth outfielder on this ball club, and it doesn't mean that I'm not playing, but can I add immense value to what I'm doing within the clubhouse, right? I think oddly, right, our eyes immediately go to the catcher, the pitcher, the shortstop, the center fielder, that middle of the field. And a lot of the times, at least with the players I've been around, those star players, their leadership style is leading through example, right, or leading through even ability. And odd enough, I think it's kind of rare to find maybe your best player on a team be your best leader. Now, has it happened before? Yes, and those are really special human beings. But sometimes if you've got a dude shortstop and maybe he's just a little uncomfortable being the vocal leader, what you don't want to do is have him diminish his ability of being the dude shortstop because he feels pressed to now be that vocal leader, right? And so how do you get, if you got 34 guys on a ball club, how do you get all these guys involved and then transitioning to like, how do they each one of them have a role, and funny enough, we had a kind of some bullpen battles today and a handful of arms that, they're looking forward to their next opportunity. Maybe there's 6 or 7 guys that haven't thrown in a couple weeks in game. And I genuinely mean this. Like today's practice, I was so excited for them because we had some type of competition and goodness, like honestly, I was skipping, as Coach Hill would say, like you're skipping to your car on really positive days out the field. Like I was skipping up here for this Zoom call, not just because of the Zoom call, which is awesome, but also because of some of those players, what they did today, where they haven't had their opportunities as much as maybe they wish or have liked, and we've had conversations with those. I'm so proud of them, like genuinely, like so proud of how they attacked today and just their personalities and their demeanors. And it's no surprise that then those players who've been able to stay even keel, even when maybe getting a little bit of a punch to the gut, they then performed, right? Like they're able to allow some confidence, lead to then the results, which again, that's a short-term story for today, but again, things that as an educator and Justin, as you know, like those are stories, those are memories that as a coach you just get super excited about. And so anyways, I know kind of went off tangent there, but in terms of leadership skill set, be who you are, right? Coach Youngerich would talk a lot about how Tony Gwynn, his mentor, would talk about like, know who you is. That's what Tony would say. Know who you is. Know who you is as a ball player. Know who you is as a person. But I think if you can cultivate an environment where those guys can be authentic in themselves, that's when special things happen in terms of not the playing side of it, but most importantly, the human being side of it.
Yeah, so good. I think what I want to hit on here a little bit is that to be to be in a leadership role, you have to be willing to do some things that are uncomfortable too, though. And
For
I
sure.
think that there's this line of like discomfort that some people are willing to cross a little quicker to absorb some of that. The other thing is when you're a leader, you do take more shots, right? Because you're maybe speaking up for some others, and you're kind of taking some punches from some guys. And if it's a true clubhouse locker room sort of situation, you might even go into the coaching staff with some things on like, hey, here's how we're feeling on this, right? You're speaking for people. And that's a tough thing, man, because you can't always make everybody happy as the leader, right? And so I think that there are challenges that come with it and everything. But I think more than that, I think that it's a lot of times it's that there are certain types of people that just don't believe that it's them, because they have a certain perception on what a leader is, right? They see a Michael Jordan or something like that, or a Tom Brady, and I get it, like they're great leaders in their respective sports. But on those same teams, there was like a Steve Kerr, right? Like that's not how Steve handled himself as a leader, right? And we see that now, right? It's a little bit more of a soft-spoken sort of approach. So everybody kind of has their own little like qualities that I think that can come forward, and you hit on it, man. And this is the biggest thing out of all of it. But authenticity has to be number one. Like if you're trying to lead and you are not yourself in any way, everybody can see it from a mile away, and it doesn't work. So it has to be in your realm. One of the questions I have for you, though, and this is kind of a great debate, I guess. You can also get too many alphas in the room too, right? So how do you balance that? How do you try to bring out certain leaders in your clubhouse locker room? How do you try to balance that, man? Because if you get too many people piping up or too many people trying to lead, it can be a little bit contentious. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you guys try to balance that there?
Yeah, balance is the perfect word, right? You can't have a successful organization or team where there's too many type of, call it leadership style A or leadership style B, and truthfully there's probably A to Z different styles of leadership, right? So I think again, just kind of going back to like promoting strengths, right? I think we live in this world where we're so innately just drawn to what we need to improve on, instead of maybe sometimes taking a step back and realizing, hey, like these are things that I do really well. Maybe I am not necessarily the voice, but organizationally speaking, I'm the most detail-oriented person in my quiet space. We also have leaders. Goodness, we've got one of our starting pitchers who there's some like emotional leadership and emotional. I remember Nick Saban saying this on a college game day where, he's looking for players that can play with emotion, but don't necessarily play emotionally. And I agree with that, but there also comes a point where you might need that one individual that is a little bit emotional. And for the good, obviously never distracting a team or an organization, but someone who just shows again their authentic selves and wears it on their sleeve. And when he punches out a dude on the mound, he's coming in and he's firing up the dugout, right? Whether that's you or not, guys need to see that, and I think guys can feed off of that, right? I think what's really unique, and this is it's still so early in comparison to what is to come in this, call it like the transfer portal era, where you're seeing really quality leaders potentially leave their previous school, and then they go and they immerse themselves in a new program. And sometimes it's almost odd, but what I've noticed is those guys are a little bit reluctant to show how of quality they can be in terms of a leader, just because it's new, right? It's a goodness. I'm my first year at the University of Oregon. Regardless of class, you could be a junior or a senior. They're a little bit maybe timid because they're new to the system at hand. And so how I respect that, I truthfully respect that, because they're not coming in and just being like, okay, this is my time now. So there's respect to that. But over the course of when, over, let's call it our fall, when really it's an evaluation period, not only are we just evaluating the X's and O's, but we're evaluating personalities, where sometimes those conversations with the players of like, hey, like, I'd love for you to step up in a leadership role, right? You do a great job of communicating with players. Like, lean on that as your superhuman ability. Or, I love the way that you attack, the game in terms of just how competitive you are. As long as you're staying within the lanes, show that a little bit more, because you never know what young guy or new guy or just teammate in general, peer, might need to see that to then also be like, you know what, like, I need to tap into that as well, maybe a little bit more. And then there's also the stability guys, like the stability guys, I think are the ones that actually run organizations of, hey, it's the guy that after an outing based off relationships can go put, his arm around a teammate and say, hey, stay with the positives here. Maybe it's a tough outing or a tough game where you're 0 for 4. But also be able, to your point, to maybe have some uncomfortable conversations where, because he's led through love, he can then also lead by just stating the facts of, hey, this is who you are, and you're unbelievable at it. Let's not lose sight of that. But here's maybe kind of where the breakdown I'm noticing in the process of you potentially getting better. And so it's just that unique teeter-totter of, can you keep things balanced in a way where you nailed it, Justin, from the get-go. You don't want too many personality types in one box. You got to be able to be diverse. But again, going back to that word authenticity, it really just comes down to that.
Man, it's so many good pieces in that, Matt. I think you hit on some things that are super interesting to me. Is the portal makes this whole culture thing really challenging, right? Because you can piece together a lot of good players, and if it doesn't fit within the locker room, it doesn't work. Like, I've heard some people say, like, well, it's easy now for the schools that can offer fulls or have big money or whatever, and it's like, no, it's never easy. Like, it doesn't mean that they can't go get some, good players. I think you guys are fortunate to be in a box where you can get a lot of good players, but at the same time, it's not just about that. There's a strategy to landing the right players. It's not as simple as people might make it. In fact, you can start looking at some of the mid-majors that are doing well right now, and I would look at San Diego, right? I mean, I can pick out a lot of them across the country, but like, you can look at some programs that do really, really well, and they stay there because they're really good at finding the guys who work for them, and they don't need the top guy in the portal to win. That's not what they're going for, and they're also maybe really good at finding the guy that, like, and I'll ask you about this, but it's like the best pitching coaches and recruiting guys that I know across the country, I think you're in this mix, they understand what they're looking for. And it's not always just, hey, is this guy like highly ranked or something like that? Or if they're in the portal, hey, I know he's highly coveted, and it's going to boost kind of our portal rankings when we, how they do that. Not like
For sure.
It's way more than that, man. It's like, it's arm angles, it's character, it's leadership qualities, it's stuff. It's like sometimes the stuff is too similar to two other guys on the staff. So it's like, man, it's electric, but he just throws too similar to other guys. Like, there's so much more to, man. Can you just talk about how you piece finding the quality leadership? Let me ask it this way. Can you talk about the talent that you're going after, and then also the other qualities that you're looking for to piece it together so that the culture stays to where you want it to be?
Yeah, it's with what's the old Spider-Man expression, with great power comes great responsibility. And nonetheless, what I can speak for the University of Oregon, right? And yes, we're very fortunate to be in a position where, and I'm not even talking financially here, but I'm speaking about we're able to attain a lot of attention just really because of this. Or this guy, right? This guy helps a lot, and because of that, we almost need to make sure that our filtering system, in terms of character, is then even of more value, right? We can, I suppose, naturally create a larger initial, if you want to go into business terms, just based off of the brand, and most importantly, what on the baseball front, what Coach has been able to do here now over the last 6 years. But you know what's really neat is, and I knew with confidence that truthfully, we, and meaning my family, we made the right decision in coming here, because early on in the summer, Green knew, right, to the university, I was able to get into the door of maybe conversations that, truthfully, I wasn't able to attain at previous institutions, right? And but what I give so much credit to Coach for is the amount of players that he actually would maybe turn to a no based off of just our interactions, or us doing our homework, and or even certain stories where players coming out here on visits, we feel like it's the right fit. We feel like it's the right fit. The player comes out for a visit, and in a 24-hour interaction, we both, or all of us potentially as a staff, are like, you know what, this doesn't mean that we dislike this player, but it's just not the right fit here. And it's not us feeling like, to your point, well, we need to get this guy because he's going to boost our transfer portal or our high school recruiting class ranking. It genuinely comes down to the final box of how is that young player treating his mom on the visit, or just the interactions. Is he looking you in the eye when you're able to communicate with him? Or odd enough, we had a player that was here in the fall, and I really liked this character, but there was trash that was 20 feet away, like kind of obvious trash into a door that we were on maybe a tour and we were about to go check out. And I kid you not, this young player walked 20 feet away to go pick up this trash and put it in the trash can. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa, now does that tell a story in terms of leadership? Maybe not, but it tells you the story of how that young man was raised, right? Or what now he has transitioned to in his young adulthood of what is a priority to him. And that wasn't fake. That wasn't, oh, I'm going to do this. It was, he didn't even think about it. It was like beeline, pick up the trash, throw it away. Oh, okay. Hey, Flo, like back to conversation form. Mm-hmm. So anyways, you're right. I'm at a very fortunate place where, we're able to attract initially a lot of really talented ball players, but we all know at the end of the day, I try to keep it as simple as this. It's like, and I've been spoiled. I mean, I'm the first one to admit it. Whether coming from Loyola Marymount to San Diego, I've been so spoiled based off of the families and the type of young man that I've been able to fortunately work with. So that my grading system is really try to keep it as simple as is like, do I genuinely really like this player or not, in terms of our communication patterns, in terms of just kind of what it looks like with his family, communicating with the parents as well, which is I think even more important at times than just the player. And if all those boxes check, then I have a higher likelihood if I like him, then I'm going to like him when I get to coach him, right? And if there's any red flag at any point across the process, if I'm going into it thinking like, oh, like I don't know the characters, it's why I hate to say it, but like I don't know how much is really going to change when all of a sudden a year or 2 years later he's here, and so as simple as, do I really like this player as a human being? Yes, awesome, he passes. If there's any red flags, you know what? Again, maybe I caught it at a bad time. We all have those. I'm guilty of it as well. But that is how detailed we at the University of Oregon are going to be throughout our process of identifying the right type of character in terms of ball player.
Yeah, I love it. So the other thing you're hitting on here too is there's character and then there's leadership. They flow together, obviously, too, but sort of two separate topics. And I think that I think as we look at the recruiting process in general, let's kind of shift to maybe more of the focus on the recruiting process for a second. When you're out at a game, or you're at a showcase, I think there are things that we can all look for in scouting and evaluating that can really lean you in on a player or not. You might be in on the skill already, and it's really more of a leadership / character evaluation, right, if you will. What are some of the things that you're trying to pull away from seeing a guy in person where you think, man, this guy might be able to lead our staff? Like I'm seeing things in this kid that, based on all of these things in this recruiting process, I think he could come in and maybe help lead us at some point. What are some of those things that you see that lead you to that?
Yeah, I think even tactically, right, where I've had peers just kind of laugh about it, but there's a lot of times where I'm out watching games or the summer market, where there's 20 different schools behind home plate with a radar gun, and I'll get the measurables, sure, because those are important at some point. But who does a great job of this too is Coach, where he's the first one to be on the rail right next to the dugout. And you can usually kind of find me hiding and sometimes being a little bit distant, just because I look at it as I'm working, right? Like I'm working, and but I'm down the line really to see, well, what are those interactions like in a dugout? Even to the extent I'll swing by the stands and I'll get a feel for, okay, so who's this player's parents? Okay, let me get a feel for what these parents are like. Sorry, I don't know, if there are many people listening to this right now, but it's just the truth, right?
No,
like I've seen probably far too many, unfortunately, parents ruin it for their kids, and so, but that's part of our process, but when you're able to be out there on the railing and almost try to be as game like as possible, I'm never calling pitches for us from the stands and call it section 6, row 4. I'm calling pitches from the side in a dugout. So I try to represent myself as best as possible to be then there throughout even an evaluation process. And then tactically, right? Like if a pitcher can, in our case, if a hitter can hit or if a pitcher can pitch, the game is going to tell you if they're good, right? You don't need too much measurable at that point. If the hitters can't hit a fastball, regardless of velocity, yeah, I love to geek out with the best of them. I'm going to find out why, because I just want to find the solution of like, why is this 84-mile-an-hour fastball so effective right now? And we have now the tools to do it, which is great. But at the same time, if hitters aren't getting it, if they're swinging and missing on 84, okay, the game's telling us it's a good fastball, right? What happens now when it's 90? A couple years later. So, anyways. You can get a really positive feel of what that young man or players are going to be like just based on their interactions then in the dugout. And then, too, even interactions. I know it's a cliche, but it's just the truth. Their interactions with the coaches, their interactions when maybe results don't go their way, the interactions when a umpire squeezes them or, has a bad call. Like, what type of body language are they showing? But point is we're going down Pandora's box. We're really looking at, okay, if these guys can check our box of what we're looking for, recruiting is always going to be a crystal ball, but at least now we have benchmarks to at least kind of lean on and rely on. Okay, we have a pretty good hunch of who this young man is and will continue to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting to so many points in this that it's really a holistic view on a player, right? I mean, it's the skill set.
For sure.
There's the leadership qualities. There's kind of the character side of it. But when we look at leadership specifically and the ability to lead, in my mind, I look for a few things, and then I'd like you to piggyback on this on what are some of the things that you like to see. But to me, I like to see guys that are stepping outside to like pick other people up in certain situations. That is a huge thing that if you see that, that's selfless. They're going out of their way, trying to make other people better, trying to, pull the reins in and get everybody focused. I love to see when guys call a huddle sometimes, let's just say a bad inning defensively or something, and one of the defenders, as they come in, just pulls everybody together to just like calm it all down in a big game. There's so many things within a game. Might be a catcher calling time to just give the pitcher a breather, right? To just, hey, he's understanding the game, but he's really just taking a step to help his guy. That's what he's doing in that situation, and trying to slow it down for him. There's other pieces to it that we can talk about for a long time, but what are some of the things that you look for that you say like, oh man, I can recall seeing this and that really stands out to me when, not that we're trying to get players to go and do things just to do them. That's not my goal. But the goal is to really evaluate if you're a player listening at some point, if you're listening to this, to me, it's about evaluating what you can do to step outside of yourself. That's really what it's coming down to, how you can help bring your team together. What are some of those things? So what are some of those things to you, Matt, that you like to look for or see that really shows you that?
You nailed many of them. I think the one that I would really like to add on to is, as silly as it sounds, but is eye contact. And what I mean by that is typically at the youth ages and even our levels, right? The best player is the one that's leading the break in between innings or after a game even, right? Or even before, you see the position players, maybe they're working on steal jumps and then they'll bring up a little huddle and they'll do their little rituals before a game, and it's awesome, right? That's part of the game. And some things that I'll even just kind of pay attention to is in those moments where it's player-led exclusively, maybe coach aside, but player-led. One is the person who's actually talking to the team, genuinely trying to make eye contact to his teammates, right? Like we all know that those people are very powerful in life when they're able to articulate message, their desired message, and they're genuinely looking into their peers' eyes. But also on the flip side of it, which is paying attention to, are those teammates then also looking him in the eye? Because how many times have you seen like a break, and again, maybe it's the best player, and all of a sudden the player who's breaking it, everyone's heads down, or everyone's just kind of like off to the side. For me, that then shows like, okay, well, we're kind of doing this because we have to do this, rather than the engagement piece. It's so small, but just the contact piece of nonverbal communication of, guys, I'm bringing you up, or a catcher, as you brought, I'm bringing you up to grab your attention in a positive way, where I'm trying to help you. Am I looking you in the eye, and are you looking me in the eye? Because that then commits to the brotherhood of, yeah, I'm in this with you, right? That then transitions to, I think, kind of a very positive leadership style. And so that's one that kind of outside of the box, but just adding on to what you've brought up some amazing points in terms of, what you're looking for in terms of first out, or a shortstop being able to say, okay, it's kind of racing on this guy right now, let's call time. Or, again, these little nuances and interactions of the game within the game. But even eye contact, as silly as that is it shows you in a unique way. It shows you if they've got power or not, right? And in a very positive way of leadership. But you got to have some type of power, right? Call it what it is, but you got to have influence is probably the better word there, right? You've got to be able to have guys look you in the eye when you're talking, so that then we as evaluators can understand, okay, that guy's got the backing of his 10, 12 other dudes on this team. And that's when it's really special and powerful, if you can find those type of players.
Oh man, I love that stuff. I want to share one quick story. I was out seeing a really elite shortstop. He actually went high in the draft when I was working the Brewers organization. And there were so many pieces of this guy that you could say, like, of course he went high and all that. But like, I was watching a game. It was actually in Arizona. He was playing shortstop. Second baseman has a huge error late in the game, top seventh inning. tying run comes in. Okay, it's tons of people there, tons of scouts. Like it's a big environment, huge environment. But I'm down the first base line because I'm kind of tucked away, trying to hear some things that maybe other people aren't, and all that too. And it settled a little bit, and the shortstop yells over the second baseman, like, "Hey, hey," like trying to get his attention. Second baseman wants no part of it at the start of it. Finally, he's like, "Hey." Second baseman looks at him. He said, "You good?" And the second baseman was like, he goes, "Because we're still going to win this." And then he just walks
Wow.
in.
Powerful.
And you could see like the second baseman just kind of refocus. And you're like, that guy grabs the people around him, right? Like you could just, from a mile away, you could see it. But just hearing that little interaction, like, "You good?" Just that check on him, man, for me was just like, man, I'm good. I'm all in on this guy. Like that sort of quality, because it wasn't for him. It was like, I need to get this guy to reset here so that we maybe go make a play here and get out of this inning and go win this thing in the bottom half. Like, okay, it's tied, but it's not over. Like, and that was sort of the feeling he was trying to get across. So I think as a player, it's one of the things that I think you can really, really grab people with is when they have challenges and you step in to like help them or encourage them. It's as tacky as that may sound. It doesn't need to be raw. At your level, it's totally different too. But like, it can be something, like, "Hey, you're good, man." Like something just happened to them, like, "Hey, we got you. We'll pick you up," or whatever it might be. It doesn't, you and I have both been in a college dugout. Like it doesn't have to be a lot, but the guys who lead, man, they're the ones that get up, come down to the end of the dugout, just a little tap on the knee, like, "We're good. Like, let's go." Like, it's that subtle aspect of it. Doesn't always need to be some rah speech, right? So can you talk a little bit about that at your place as you blend all these different guys from the portal and all the things that they're doing in the high school guys? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the expression that I really like to use is bump, right? Like give your guy like a
Yeah.
positive bump, and that can be through communication on the field. That can be communication in a clubhouse. That can even be a text message. Like, I mean, how far would it go if even after a game and it's been rough, you get a text from someone that you just really respect,
Yeah.
and the message is simple, right? Hang in there. Whatever the message is, I don't want to even add to that because it's unique and special in its own way. But something that's of positive thought, it just allows then that player to just remind themselves, hopefully, that one, they're being taken care of. There's guys out there looking out for them. And then two, unique, but this game's already hard. Like, let's
Yeah.
not make it any more challenging battling ourselves. And sometimes we just need to hear that, right? I do too, right? Like I do too. Like, there was a few weeks ago, we had a great game, and as simple and silly as it sounds, but it's just the truth. Like, coach shot me a message that night and just that was a heck of a game. And that was it. Right. And we all need it. We all need it in life. Right. And so nonetheless, I think just being able to promote those positive bumps are really important. And then giving the players the tools of how to do it, right? Or the timing to do it. And then if you even want to get into like the science of it too, like even like physical contact, right? High fives, right? Little slaps on the side, whatever it might be in a positive reinforcing way. There was an interesting study, and this is goodness, probably now over 10 years ago, but nonetheless, it was a study that was done by the whoever was running this NBA case study, we'll call it, and I forgot whatever university was running this, but literally they charted the amount of touches, whether it be, again, high five, slap on the side, good job, but physical contact, physical touches of positive reinforcement. And crazy enough, over the course of, I think the NBA is 82 games, if I'm not mistaken, but a regular season, over the course of the regular season, coincidentally, how funny this is, but coincidentally, the 5 teams who had the most amount of touches had the 5 best records in the NBA.
Really?
And odd enough, or not really, the 5 teams that had the least amount of touches, 5 of those teams had, it was under like the 6th worst NBA record overall in the regular season. So, there's a really cool video too for anyone that you can find it, and maybe I'll share it with you too, Justin. But it's of Steve Nash. Steve Nash was like the king of positive touches, but think of his role at the time when he was maybe with the Suns. That guy was distributing the ball. He was the king of assists, and already a selfless role. Even an MVP caliber player had multiple, I think, at least one, but maybe 2 league MVPs based off of really helping his teammates, assisting, literal assist to teammates, but he would also lead the NBA in touches. And so there's also that mind-body connection of something that's silly, but our pitchers do it every day, where after we break our team building segment and then we jump into stretch, and as our pitchers will maybe transition to maybe our 45-minute window of getting ready for pre-throw and catch, we'll do a high five line right there. And us assistants are in there too. But literally just to kickstart, and they hear it, positive touches, positive touches, positive touches. And again, that's just a tool that I was fortunate enough to kind of study up on. But it's powerful nonetheless.
That's amazing, man. I had never heard that. That's a crazy study to think that correlated with top 5 and bottom 5. I mean, that's mind blowing, man. I guess if you think about it, just kind of stepping back, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you're probably dealing with teams that are more cohesive. There's probably more celebration amongst each other. Makes a lot of sense, man. I love that you brought that up. And as we kind of finish up here, man, I appreciate your time so much, man. I know that you have a lot going on. If there's anybody on here tonight that wants to ask Matt a question, or myself, I think Matt's probably going to be the one that gets the majority of them here tonight. But if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We'll get to those. I want to get to the last question, then we'll go to the Q&A. But when you look at just your general advice, let's just go to pitchers now, because that's kind of what you're dealing with the most. If you're talking to a youth or high school pitcher, what are some of the things that you advise on, or as you kind of like instruct and you're speaking to youth pitchers, what are some of the things that you encourage them to do to build their skill set as a pitcher, both like physically but also mentally as well?
Yeah, great question. I think, again, going back to evaluation, there is a crystal ball to it. But I think in terms of the physical advancement, I've been very fortunate, knock on wood, I've been very fortunate to in moments call it diamonds in the rough in the evaluation process. Is there something that this young player does, whether it's kind of body movement of a pitcher down the mound, right? Like you just find that clean arm or that lean body, or just the delivery that's very athletic, and then potentially project out from there. Are you able to make sure that, hopefully each pitcher that we'll bring here or recruit in evaluation has a special trait to them, right? It doesn't have to be 95, but you do need to have a unique characteristic that creates uncomfortability for maybe an offense. This guy, maybe he's, call it undersized for his age. Maybe the fastball velocity is not lighting up a radar gun, but goodness gracious, he's got an invisible slider, or he's got a, change up. Or it is that example of maybe it's a lower velocity right now, but some of the things that he does to create swing and miss, it's really special. So I think physically, my conversations more so with our guys, even in the recruiting process, is like asking them questions too. Like I have my own thoughts, but more importantly, I want to make sure that I'm asking them questions that hopefully align with what I see of like, what is your special ability? Like, what is the trait that makes you so good, or traits, right? In some players' case, and those players might be really good. And I think that it's so important for the player to give you that information, because I don't want to force or lean towards like giving them hints towards, this is why I think you're good. I really actually want to hear like, why are you good? From a X's and O's standpoint, because if we're in alignment of this is what I see, and then he's also kind of, I suppose, giving me that same information, talk about kind of a maturity piece, but there's already a maturity piece in there of knowing who he is as a special player. And then from, the call it the mental, side of it, something that I like to do with our recruited players, especially this time of the year in the spring, it becomes easier spring and summer because we're more consistently now playing, is, hey, like after you throw, just send me a message of how it went, and I never really ask for, in this case, especially guys who are maybe already committed, I don't need the measurables. I have an understanding of who you are, but more importantly, like, how do you feel? Physically, more maybe based off of exhaustion, but mentally, like, why did you have such a great outing? Or why is this outing just okay? Like, what do you want to improve on? And odd enough, I can probably pull it up. I still got some logs of text messages of now players who are in professional baseball that I might have recruited back in 2016, 17, where it's almost like a diary. And I can scroll up and almost reflect on, hey, this is when you were going really well. And look at what you were informing me then 4 years ago of when you were at your best. So even just kind of logistically hearing them out from more of that mental and safe space. And then two, you can kind of slide in without technically coaching, but you can kind of slide in and also, just remind them too, like, are we making these messages too result oriented, or can we build upon the process of some really positive things, right? I watched a young commit of ours yesterday throw, and he gave up one hit in his 4 innings, pitch count. And the one hit was like a bloop double. And, his message was something along the lines of, man, I wish I could have thrown a different pitch there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, first of all, you get one hit in 4 innings and you punched out like 10. Like, you're going pretty good. We're nitpicking at this point. Yeah. But also just reminding him that double that you did give up was like barely a blooper down the opposite field, line. We're talking about 3 feet from being foul. And are you really talking then about that pitch if it's foul, right? So that's more process oriented. So just trying to get them to, I looked at it, I was like, hey, Austin, you gave up a hit, you challenged him, and the ball just so happened to land in fair territory. Like, that's baseball. So it also can allow some fun little talking points, for players who are either being recruited or have committed. And I'll be fortunate enough to coach, in the coming year or two.
Man, awesome stuff, Matt. I appreciate your insight so much. I'll give just another 30 seconds here for anyone who wants to throw anything in the chat. I'll say this. I think one of the things that from speaking with others, getting to know you more now and stuff like that, I think it's really interesting because I do think sometimes like that sort of mindset that you just talked about can really help players gain trust in their coaches too. Because you've been there, where it's like, I actually won on that pitch. It's a blooper. It's not hit well. It lands, and to not have a coach that, like, maybe to have a coach that gets on you for that, and it's like, I executed. Baseball. I mean, yes, I don't want that to happen, but I think there's something unique to that with you, man. And I do think I could see that being a huge draw to, to want to play for you, is that sort of side of just reasonability, I guess, of like, okay, yeah, like, that's great. That's great that you see that, because I knew it, but it's like, you don't want to make excuses or anything either. Can you just talk a little bit about that as we finish up here?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that, Justin. Again, it kind of goes back to first grade Matt wanting to be an educator, right? For the thrill of just being able to help others. And I think, again, it's just reminding us as coaches how hard this game is. Yeah. So much, in fact, that I pulled. We've got, some really talented young freshman arms, and specifically like first-year arms that, again, it's their first year of not being the dude, not going out there every weekend throwing 5 innings. And I took them aside today, and I reminded them, I was like, hey guys, like there's this player right now that's not here at the University of Oregon, who's at his respective college, who's really good, was so good that he got drafted extremely high in this past year's MLB draft, right? Like literally 8 months ago, guys were saying that this guy's worth X amount of millions of dollars, and good for the player. He said, you know what, I want to bank on myself and I want to go play at this awesome university that he's, pitching at currently. And nonetheless, is like these pro scouts who are not wrong. These pro scouts saw that this guy was worth this much, and he's a dude, and he is a dude. But if you pull up his stats right now for his first season, his freshman season of college baseball, he's got like a 7 ERA. And again, that's the same guy 8 months ago that was going to get millions of dollars. And so the point of the message it was more the relatability of, that guy is really good and he's still going to make a lot of money one day.
Yeah. That's right.
Let's not, lose sight of, you as a freshman are experiencing the most challenging year you will ever experience in baseball, right? And you guys weren't drafted in the, whatever round he was drafted. You weren't offered those millions of dollars. He was, and he's got a 7 ERA. You guys are still in this youthful state where we got to just enjoy it. We just got to learn from it. We got to grow through it. And if you can kind of just give them then that reassurance of everything's going to be fine, trust the fact that whether you're the best pitcher on the staff or, you're pitcher 18, regardless of that, whatever you want to call it, rank, my job is to coach 1 through 18 the same. Most importantly, though, to treat you guys the same, right? And really, in my world, that means, at least for kind of how I like, is like I'm gonna coach the crap out of you. Like I am coaching you to educate you, to develop you. I'm not going to cast you aside. And I think that is something, again, that I've been very fortunate enough where, goodness, 3-4 years ago now, you're talking about a guy who's a big leaguer that probably many of programs after his freshman and even sophomore year would have cut him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he just needed that one more birthday. He needed that one more birthday to then all of a sudden switch and goodness gracious, that guy walked away as a second rounder with really only competing heavily in 1 year, his junior year, and he'll be in the bigs this year. So special stories along the way, nonetheless, but awesome. I'm very fortunate to do what I do.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the feedback, the stories, the information. I appreciate you taking time to come on. I know you have a lot going on, buddy, and appreciate our friendship, and we'll be talking soon. You get off the hook here tonight without any questions, so you can get out of here and get home to your family.
I